If you're new here, please consider hitting the like, that subscriber, maybe that notification bell too. And if you want to be super awesome, you can support the channel either through Patreon or YouTube membership. They are super helpful to me right now. And just thank you and for just taking the time out of your days to be here to watch these videos. Thank you so much. And with that being said, let's get into today's stories. Much love, guys. Our first story comes from RA Throw 1235. My wife, 28 female, recently changed her political views significantly, and it's negatively affecting our relationship and kids. 30 male, help me navigate what to do. Throw away as my wife knows my real Reddit username. Thanks and healing. Advance for the help. We've been married for 3 years now, and she's never been political. Once we had our second child about a year ago, she started getting really into reading, mummy, blogs and social media posts about the potential harm of vaccines. I listened to her, haven't made my own stance on it yet. I'll admit I'm not as passionate about the subject as her, so I haven't done much research and empathize with the regret she was feeling about vaccinating our kids. I hoped that she would kind of leave it at that. Well, she hasn't. She's only gone deeper into the rabbit hole, and all she talks about now is negatively about the government and what they're going to do to deceive us. The vaccine blogs turn into interest in child trafficking, then QA non-conspiracies. And now, so close to the election, she's admitted that her political stance has now shifted into one that's pro-Republican and pro-Trump. I majored in a political science, so I know all the strategies both sides are taking to transway the swing state we live in. I'm anti-Trump, not a supporter of Biden, but agree more on his priorities / points that 45 and will not be voting for him. She's expressed her unhappiness about it. I'm choosing to respect her opinion as I feel she's entitled to it, but now she's angry at me anytime I disagree or provide evidence that refutes her position, citing fake news echo chamber, all that. I've tried to tell her that what she's doing is also in the realms of an echo chamber, but claims her sources are more credible and refuses to back down. At this point, I don't even want to talk about politics anymore, but she keeps telling me that's not an option because it's not about politics, it's about our kids. Honestly, I'm up my wits' end, and we're fighting about this so often, even when I've asked her to respect my opinion. Any thoughts or others who are in the same position? Now, usually I'm not big into going down the whole political road because it can open up a whole can of worms down in the chat below. Because, there is going to be people from both sides, and, I respect that. But this one I found interesting because it's separating a relationship. The relationship was formed before, and now suddenly the political views have changed from one side, and it's turned them against each. And that's what I found quite interesting, and I think, in my opinion, you will have to talk politics. You can't just drop it because she's looking at it is affecting your kids. So it's going to affect your kids as well. And she can't make that decision alone. You need to have a good talk about it in some way, I guess. Because otherwise, one of you is going to have to make the decision on your kids with vaccines and all that kind of stuff. And we've seen it so many times in stories before where one of the parents has taken the child to get a vaccine or not. So it can be a very dangerous game, especially not talking about it. But let's have a look at the comments to see what they say. Consequence that 741 says, as a nurse to subsets me, measles is raging in California and polio could come back if we stop vaccinating. Honestly, science is real and COVID is real and vaccines save lives. Smallpox is gone. I don't understand why people want to go back in time. Medically, she needs to read reliable sources, not crazy people screaming conspiracy theories. I'll suggest therapy and reputable medical journals from around the world. See if I'm Green says you absolutely do not need to respect her opinion when it's putting your children in danger. Luminous Robot Bird says in quotes. So I haven't done much research. Your wife hasn't done any research. She's used Google and blogs to find pseudoscientific stuff that sounds truthy. You should go with your kids to their next doctor appointment and ask the pediatrician what he thinks doctors don't know everything, but I would trust a doctor over a random conspiracy. I think you could try couples counseling for the rest of it. Hopefully that can help. You communicate with her automatically trying to shut you down. Hopefully she's not too far gone to work with you. And oh my gosh, NASA's seek counseling. That's the only way to have a third party that isn't going to judge you both and give you real professional advice if your wife is being unreasonable in my eyes. Yes, she is, but that is my opinion. I grew up in a family of people who work in medical fields, and it's such a slap in the face to think that these mummy blogs know more than someone who went to school for what they do now. What do you guys think of this story? How should they deal with it? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story is from Ace Dude. My 27, male wife, 30, female threw away letters from my exes without telling me I have a small safe that I keep important documents and such, taxes, birth certificate, a USB, with a flash game I made, etc. But also in the safe are keepsakes, things like concert tickets and letters from colleagues. This includes letters from ex-girlfriends. None of them were sultry or raunchy. There were things like someone wishing me a great time in college and saying how they miss me. They were innocuous, but they were important to me. Things every now and then when I opened it up to add a new tax return or something, it was kind of nice to look through the memories, see where I was and how I've grown. Today I opened up the trash and saw an envelope with my name on it, empty and crumpled. I wasn't sure it came from, and after searching finally realized that my wife had gone through these things, that thrown them away without telling me. She then added letters of her own, things I kept around the house or displayed on dresses already. I feel like it's a gross breach of trust, but maybe I was in the wrong to keep these things. I just feel violated and can use advice. Edit. A lot of people seem to be taking the words safe a bit too literally. It's one of those fake books that you can unlock. And I keep as a keepsake box. The key is literally sitting next to the box. It's mostly concert tickets and letters in there. I really don't keep my personal important documents in there. So it's not something she has to open up constantly. Wow. So yeah, I agree with AP on this one. It may be letters from the ex and and the wife may be jealous of it because no one really wants to see their ex's stuff. I don't think I would, but at the same time, I don't think I'd feel obliged to chuck them away. I just wouldn't look at them. And you're totally allowed to keep pieces of your past there. And I may be totally wrong. It may be just like a controlling relationship, but there might be something deeper at play here. There might be something she's so jealous because she might have been hurting the part from something else. And I'm just reaching here. I'm just literally throwing things out there because I don't know. It doesn't say in this story, but you never know what's behind closed doors, right? And I shouldn't be because this is the story, this is the information we've been given. But I guess what I'm saying is, like if I was in that situation, I'd probably go steady with it. I would approach her and I would tell her, look, this isn't on you. Don't do this, but in a calm way as possible, just because you never know what it might bring up. But yes, she is totally in the wrong to do that. So I keep wanting to say, and not the arse anyway. Let's have a look at the comments below to see what they say. Our Throw says, in quotes, I feel like it's a gross breach of trust, but maybe I was in the wrong to keep these things, then says, no, you weren't in the wrong. Yes, this was a gross breach of trust. You have the right to keep things you've been given. And an aberrant quill says, who boy buckle, up and sit down for a hot second. Let me try and break this down and ask some questions. 1. Did she only get rid of these things that were from exes, or did she get rid of everything? 2. Did she originally know that you were holding on to things your ex gave you? 3. Did you ever tell her about them? Like hey, these are from Bob and Amy. I'd appreciate that. You don't throw them away. I can somewhat understand getting a bit jealous over your spouse keeping things that an ex has given them. I was in a relationship to where my partner kept and hid photos of him and his ex. Long story short, I wasted 3 years of my life with him because he was over her and cheated on me 3 times. The difference here is that I confronted him about keeping photos of the 2 of them. Plus, she apparently was emotionally abusive towards him and cheated on him, and he just forgot that they were there and planned on getting rid of them. He never did. However, with that being said, keeping memories of old friends is okay in almost every situation. I still have gift. My own ex gave me him, and I are still close friends to this day. and we only dated for 3 or so months. It was a mutual split because we realized we made better friends than life partners. Gifts are often innocent. Hell, I still have a stuffed bear my close friend gave me on Valentine's Day when we were like 7. Long story short, communication is a must. If your wife has ever been cheated on in the past, this could bring up red flags to her. Please, please, please talk to a Carly and explain those things were from your close friends. And while somewhere from exes, you didn't mean any malicious intent in keeping them, issues like these aren't black and white. Situations, they're typically in the gray area. While she did breach your trust and personal belonging, people tend to throw fits into the heat. At the moment, take a step back and look at it this way too. Will she possibly try to declutter things and just toss them out without knowing what they were? Was there actual malicious intent in her throwing them away? If so, can you two recover from that? Can you explain to her that you meant no ill will? Keep in those memories to remind you of the younger days. To which Op replied, "These are all incredibly good questions, both for me to think about before talking to her and to propose to her. Thank you for your insight. It's incredibly..." Now, how do you feel about the situation? Do you think the wife is just being controlling? Do you think, she might have just thrown him away off the cuff kind of thing? And how would you go about dealing with that situation too? Let me know in the comments below. And our next story is from my aunt and my dad. My dad, 39 male, and my aunt, 45 female, have been having an affair for 4+ years. They have no idea. I, 20 female, know about it, but I caught them together last night. Long-time lurker, first-time poster. Sorry in advance for the length. I have a lot to get off my chest. A little background info, because our family situation is pretty weird. My mom went to college a few hours away from her hometown in 1999 and met my dad. My parents were together very briefly, like a month, and my mom got pregnant with me. She moved back to her hometown after getting pregnant, and my dad followed so he could be involved in my life. My mom died the day after I was born due to childbirth complications, but my dad stayed in her hometown to raise me. He's not close to his family at all, so my mom's family has pretty much become his adoptive family. My maternal grandparents practically see him as a son at this point, and vice versa. And my mom's 2 sisters see him as a brother, or so they say. Now, with a little background on my mom's oldest sister. She's been married since before she met my dad in 1999, but she despised her husband for as long as I can remember. No one in the family likes him either, for reasons I won't get into. She always says she'll leave him, but they've been married for 22 years, and she still hasn't. She has no children. She and I aren't super close, but we're also not estranged or anything. Backgrounding for my dad, he had a couple of long-term girlfriends when I was much younger, but he hasn't had one in at least 10 years. He claims it's because likes being single and having fun. Everyone sort of views him as a womanizer who doesn't want to sail down. He had occasionally tell me he has a date, but I've never seen any proof of this. I'm extremely close to him, but I don't ask him about his love life because that would be weird outwardly. My aunt and my dad aren't super close. They see each other when we all get together as a family, which is often, but they've never openly hung out one-on-one or anything like that. When we're all together, they just act like siblings. However, I'm a very intuitive and inquisitive person, and when I was about 13, I started getting suspicious of them. The weirdest thing was there was never any proof or evidence that something was going on between. It's just a gut feeling. I had something in the way they looked at each other and spoke of each other. I started to theorize about the technicalities, wondering how and when they'd be meeting up. If they were, I wondered if they were secretly meeting up when I was at school or at my grandparents'. When I was younger, I used to spend the night at their house at least 4 times a month, just because I wanted to. And sometimes my dad would ask them to keep me because he had to work late. But like I said, there was never any proof or evidence. So my theories were no more than occasional thoughts. Fast forward to when I was 16, my dad owns a store. And when I first got my license, curiosity took over me, and I started driving by a store on the nights he was working late to see if he's actually there. He always was. But one time I asked Carver's there too. My dad has a pull-out couch in his office. He doesn't know that I know this. The only reason I do because I looked at it really hard one day and figured it out. It's one of those couches that looks completely normal, but turned into a bed. Seeing that there confirmed my suspicions, I decided to leave it at that and stopped Prime because I already felt weird and nosy enough. The whole situation really haunted me. For a while, and honestly it still does. I sobbed all the way home and all night long after confirming my suspicions. I always viewed my dad as someone with amazing morals, and the thought of him having a long-term affair with a married woman, not just any married woman, but my own aunt, really mess with my head. And on top of that, I couldn't tell anyone about it. It's confirmed this had been going on for at least 4 years, but I suspect it's way, way longer than that. Like I mentioned earlier, my dad hasn't had a girlfriend in over 10 years. I suspect this relationship with my aunt is the reason. There was also an instance in 2018 when my aunt and my dad both coincidentally went out of town and came back at the exact same time. My aunt claimed to be in New York visiting a friend. My dad claimed to be in Nebraska for a business convention, but I think they may have actually taken a trip together. I've been walking on eggshells for the past 4 years and living in constant fear that I'd be caught in an awkward situation and accidentally see something I'm not supposed to, something much worse than just a car at his office. And then my fears finally came true a few hours ago. I'm doing college from home right now, living with my dad. Tonight we had a miscommunication. He thought I was spending the night and my boyfriend's, but I was actually planning to come home. I got home about midnight and figures it was safe because my aunt's car wasn't there or anything. I was under the impression that my dad knew I was coming home, so he wouldn't have her over. But when I walked in, my aunt and my dad would just sit on the couch watching a movie or cuddled up. I went in through the game door, which is the room they were in, so I walked right in on them. Thank God they were only watching a movie, but it was still pretty traumatizing, considering they have no idea. I've known about their relationship for years now. We all kind of just froze for a second. Then my dad said, "I didn't know you were coming home." And I said, "I told you." I was then in a weird freak-out state. I ran back to my car and went back to my boyfriend's. I'm still at my boyfriend's. He knows everything, by the way. He's the only one he does. And I haven't heard from my dad since it's 3 a.m., and I've been waiting for a text or call. But I haven't gotten one, which I think is super weird, considering we're close and usually have great communication. I haven't reached out to him either because I don't know what to say. Obviously, we're inevitably going to have to address this probably tomorrow, and I'm so freaked out I can't sleep. Don't wait for him to reach out to me first, or do I text him if he hasn't texted me by the morning? Do I tell him I've known the whole time if he says they were just hanging out or is a one-time thing? Which I feel he might do. I just pretend to believe him now. Unfortunately, I did check for an update on this, but there hasn't been one posted as yet. Now I think this is going to be like an incredibly difficult one to know what to do with, because whether the husband is still grieving, and they obviously depends on how long they've been together and all this kind of thing. But did they meet through grief? Because obviously the aunt is with potentially an abusive husband of some sort, and the husband lost their partner, so they might be grieving, and they've come together through this, so they're finding some comfort in each other. Not that that's an excuse for cheating or anything like that, because, we can't excuse cheating here, because it's just, you can't do that if you're going to split with someone and split with them. But, it's very difficult to say that. I think it's very difficult to paint either the husband or the aunt is like automatically the bad guy in this situation. We don't know if the husband's still suffering through grief, and the aunt what her relationship is. We know that no one in the family likes her husband, and that you potentially mean we don't know if it's abusive or what. And if it is, does that excuse cheating? Can we say, yeah, they're totally fine to be together because of what's been going on in the aunt's house? But all I would be able to say in this situation is that it just needs to be taught, spoken about. It needs to be all out in the open, like between your dad, the aunt, and and just disgusting, because that's the only way anything is going to be solved, right? And let's just have a look at the comments below to see what they say. A howling gale says what I'm going to say first is to calm down a bit. Yes, this is serious, but it's not the end of the world. It's regrettable that you have to realize so soon that your father isn't much of an ethical person, as you would like him to be. But sadly, parents are just like any other human being. It is what it is. Beyond that, I think you need to finally decide what's important for you, honestly, as a value or the issues this coming up would cause in your family. I make no judgment either way, but what I would recommend, regardless of whether you decide to keep their secret or not, is that you're honest. With your father, you tell him what you suspect is known for so long, and that has clearly been affecting you. Maybe you decide that this affair is none of your business, but your relationship with him certainly is. And it's important you open up with him and you two figure it out, what this means for your daughter-father relationship. I think that's some excellent advice right there. Tiny says your aunt is cheating on her mean husband. That isn't ideal, but it is not uncommon. Your dad is sleeping with a married woman again. Not ideal, not uncommon. It's very common for people who lose their partners to end up with their siblings. And you do not know the whys of this. While your aunt doesn't leave her husband when they fell in love at the end of the day. People have complicated lives. Your dad loves you, talk to him about it. So it doesn't feel like a big secret. But to you, this feels more important at the moment than it really is. Your dad's love life is separate from you. You don't have to worry about it. Or families have weird secrets, Tefresca says, based on what you wrote is very possible. They bonded through grief. A husband may be abusive financially, or otherwise you have no idea what the circumstances are of this relationship. I would not count your father as the bad guy in this. Before you get more information, there is levels to cheating and might. Sometimes it's needed for sanity's sake, danger. Mom says your dad sounds like he did everything to put you at the center of his universe and put his personal life on hold and hidden to put you first. As close as you are, we can never know the inside and the outside of another person's mind, heart. Marriage, now that you're an adult, he should be encouraged to find love and companionship. For 20 years, he put himself aside to put you first. That is with your aunt is not ideal as she is. Married, but please realize that in a harsh world, sometimes we need to be forgiving and accepting. Straight good says the situation sucks. But with serious conversation with your father, you can figure things out. If you make your aunt happy and makes him happy, then she needs to end things with a husband, and maybe this is the push she needed to do it. Best of luck to you all. Feel the Bum says, to be honest, if it weren't for the estranged husband of your aunt, I'd be happy for them both. As it seems like a serious relationship, your aunt should just divorce and go with your dad. No reason for your aunt to be in a loveless marriage. And Andy of Borg says, you're going to be fine. Your dad still loves you. This is his mess to deal with. Just try and relax and try to get some sleep. You can deal with it in the morning, been going on for years, and you've known for years. So one more day is going to make much of a difference. It's all going to work out. Now, what do you guys think of this relationship? How should Op approaches? Should you just take it up with a dad, or should it all come out in the wash? I don't know. It's an incredibly difficult one. And what do you think about their relationship? Is it valid that they're cheating? If, say, it is an abusive relationship on the aunt's part, she should just split up. And I know it's not easy when you're in an abusive relationship. It's hard to make that step. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Once again, guys, thank you for being here today. I hope you did enjoy today's stories. And if you did, you know what to do. Hit that like that, subscribe, and maybe that notification bell too. And if you're feeling extra spicy, you can join the Patreon or the YouTube membership, and it would really help me out. But no pressure to do so at the time of your day is more than enough, and it's more than I can ask for. Thank you very, very much for being here today. I really appreciate you, and I will see you in the next one. Much love, guys.